Hey everyone, welcome to the UFO live stream. Today's open lines where I hope to talk to some of you. We have a live voice chat going on Telegram right now, where if you join it, you would be able to talk to me and share your stories with me directly. In the description, you'll find a link to the Telegram group. If you don't have Telegram, you can always install it during this interview, maybe some other time, during the show, but you can install it on your phone or the computer and simply join the group where you will be able to see the voice chat that's live, and you'll also just hear me on there as well. So it might confuse you trying to watch on YouTube or some other platform and listening on Telegram, because I think there might be a delay. But if you have a story to share, please do join. Today I wanted to basically just kind of give you guys a little bit of an array of things, some news, some things that just were brought to my attention recently, and I found it interesting, and I hope you do as well. Also, if you have any questions, or during the time when I'm basically done presenting what I have, and I'm also keeping an eye out for anybody that does join the room that wants to actually speak to me. If you just want to ask a question or submit a question in whatever platform you're watching, in your comments, if you can please put 3 asterisks and then put your question after that. That way I know it's meant for me, and it's not just part of the regular chatter in the rooms. So what I wanted to basically start out is exactly what that title says. It's basically like, are aliens walking among us? And unfortunately, there's a gentleman that had passed away in 2018, and he was very prevalent in the UFO field. His name is Robert Dean. And so I would like to start out with a little clip that does explain about who he is, what else he did, so I don't have to do that here. But I want to start out with that. It's close to 7 minutes long, and he tells a very interesting story of what he did basically while he was in the military. And then after we're done with that, we'll go from there. All right, let me bring in my browser. I also apologize. There's some software issues I've been having, and I hope it doesn't affect the broadcasting out to you. But if it does, I'm pretty sure some of you might tell me, or if you don't mind, kind of basically being a messenger for me or in chat or something, just to let me know if everything's going all right. Okay, well, let's switch over to the browser and I'll show you the video. This is Robert Dean. Again, he had passed away in 2018. I would have loved to have interviewed him and just have him share his story. But thankfully he has done that on many different platforms with many other interviewers in the past. So I'm glad there's still a lot of information left behind. Okay, here we go.
Robert Dean has a list of credentials a mile long. He served 4 years from 1963 to 1967 at Supreme Headquarters Allied Powers, Europe, the military arm of NATO. He was an intelligence analyst with a cosmic top-secret clearance.
Well, Don, it began for me in 1963 when I was assigned to the Supreme Headquarters Allied Powers in Europe. I arrived in the summer of '63 and I was assigned to the Operations Division. I was further assigned to what we call SHOC, the War Room, the Supreme Headquarters Operations Center. And at that time I was given a cosmic top-secret clearance, which was and still is the highest level of security access that NATO has. When I was assigned to the War Room, I learned that a study had been initiated in 1961, and everybody was talking about it. They were gossiping about it. And the subject was UFOs, and that intrigued me a bit. When that study was concluded in 1964 and it was published, and I was still working in the War Room at that time, I had access to this document. I had a chance to read it. And having been exposed to it, I must tell you honestly that my life has never ever quite been the same. Because I read first-hand reports, verifiable NATO military material that indicated that the UFOs were not only real, but they represented something far beyond anything I had ever imagined before. When the study was concluded in '64, they concluded that there were 4 different groups apparently coming and visiting us. Out of those 4 different groups, one group looked exactly like we do, so much so that they could sit beside you in a restaurant or in an airplane or in a theater, and you'd never know. And that particular point bothered the military guys a lot. The point being that some of these people from somewhere could be walking up and down the corridors of SHAPE headquarters, or they could be walking up and down the corridors of the Pentagon. One day at lunch, a lieutenant colonel made the remark, he says, "Jesus, do you realize they could even be in the White House?" And there was a little forced laughter at that point, I remember, because a lot of us over the years have had some misgivings about the occupants of the White House. But the point I'm making is that the idea that aliens could be here in our midst bothered the military, because if you're not paranoid when you go into the service, you're certainly trained very quickly to be so. It's the nature of the military mind, I think, to be paranoid. But that was only part of the story. The SHAPE conclusions in '64 were that there were 4 groups that we knew of. They were apparently interplanetary. Some very likely were interstellar. They even concluded that some of them could be intergalactic. When I retired in 1976, many of our military people knew at that point that we were not simply dealing with visitations from people from other planets or star systems. They had concluded by '76 that some of these visitors very well might be multidimensional in their source. The evidence that we had collected and the evidence that they had repeatedly demonstrated to us, and that's no accident. It became very clear after a time that there was a program or a process of some kind underway, that they had demonstrated over and over and over again that they apparently were able to manipulate matter and time. Now, this really shook up our scientists. There are a lot of new young scientists in particle physics today who talk about multiple dimensions. There's a brilliant young professor in New York by the name of Michio Kaku, who has written a brilliant book called Hyperspace, where they talk about 10 separate dimensions. I'm not enough of a physicist to try to explain to you what a dimension is, but the idea that there could be intelligences from somewhere else, from other dimensions, coming and going into our reality. It's been quite a shakeup in traditional science. I guess I speak out openly and bluntly about this because I feel so strongly about it. I violate my security oath every time I speak about it. I do it intentionally, and I do it on purpose, because I feel so strongly that the American people not only have a right to know the truth, but they have a need to know the truth. The truth, Don, apparently is simply this, that we're not alone, we've never been alone. We are apparently part of an infinite universe filled with intelligent life. I find that exciting. It doesn't frighten me. The SHAPE study concluded in '64 that if they, whoever they were malevolent or hostile, that they could have taken this planet and cleaned it up and eliminated us, turned us into dog food or whatever, a long, long time ago. That the historical evidence indicates that they've been with us a long time, and I've concluded that we had what I like to call an intimate interrelationship with at least one of those groups, the group that looks exactly like we do. And that point is, I don't like the word alien. I don't think the term alien is appropriate at all here. I like to refer to them as family. We're related to them. I think they had a hand in our being here. And I think the time has come where we're about to meet our extended family. It's going to be very soon, and the people are not ready. And one of the reasons I do speak out so bluntly and so openly is if in some small way I can help people get prepared for this. Because I believe that this reality, once we have accepted it and understood it and gone beyond the fear, will bring about an expansion of consciousness in the human race that will truly help us and prepare us to go out there and take our rightful place in that infinite community of life.
All right. Well, So this was, I guess, a lot of times when, I've done interviews or things that some of you even have watched online, there's always people that have experiences that talk about specifically what has happened to them. But I personally, other than him and maybe just one other, don't know that many that are actually kind of sharing these stories regarding what the government actually still knows. I know we're on the verge of them releasing it with David Grush and whatever else they're doing. Excuse me one quick second. Sorry. So anyway, it's basically just interesting to hear that story. I wish there's always more, because when you're just sitting back and you're watching it or listening, you just you wanted to, okay, what's next, and show me more, show me whatever else you got. And unfortunately, in this field, a lot of times all we're left with is these stories. And so, like with everything that I've always mentioned in the past, just keep it in the back of your mind. It doesn't mean you have to believe it. It doesn't mean you don't have to believe it. It just means, okay, like every other piece of information, whether it's a funny movie or some other things that are kind of useless to you, keep it in the back of your mind so that if and when you ever come across something like this, you would kind of have a reference. You would kind of have a little bit of knowledge of like, oh, okay, I've heard of this before. I see this is what I'm dealing with now, instead of kind of looking at it anew and maybe with fear and confusion and whatever else. Now, you'll still be confused. I promise you that, but at least you kind of have just a little bit of a false sense of being informed, because when you actually have an experience yourself, it's an entirely different level. But anyway, so this next thing I want to show you, it's not at all to disparage what Robert Dean was talking about, because I'm 99.99% sure that this is fake. But there are enough things that are basically like not available to confirm it 100%, so it always leaves a little bit of room of doubt. So I came across this video, and this was apparently shot, I think, 2020, so about 3 years ago, and it's on this German comedian that basically had the show, and I think I have the original also that I downloaded. I have the original for sure. I'm just not sure if I actually put it in the tabs here, but I went back to the original to find it, and this section of it was not there. And for those of you watching, obviously, and listening, what I'm trying to talk about here is that as she's discussing certain things, and you'll hear the clip, and it's in German, I'll translate that little part that's there. She said certain things, and then her eyes kind of close. Instead of closing up and down like ours, they close from side to side. And so I was able to find some things, like some people referencing, of course, this is like third, fourth, 20th hand down, saying that, oh, the producers did this as a joke, and so it's been taken down. Others say, okay, well, we looked at this, and it doesn't have any sign of any kind of digital manipulation, whatever. The bottom line is, I'm not saying this is 100% real. I'm not saying you need to believe this. Like I said before, just take it for entertainment purposes only. But it was something interesting, and it did create quite a buzz, so I wanted to share it with you. So in other words, so this lady basically, I never heard of her, but then again, it's been a long time since I've been in Germany. But here's the original clip. And so basically, it's in the process of her saying what she does, and I'll get to it, where her eyes then blink in a specific way. So let me play that for you real quick.
Das ist auch einfach too much. Leute, fallt da bitte nicht drauf rein.
So she said, this is simply too much. People don't fall for it.
Wenn ihr wissen wollt, woher Corona wirklich kommt.
Basically, she's saying, people don't fall for it if you really want to know where Corona comes from. And then that's end of the clip. And basically, these are the screenshots that people have been then paused and have captured. There's also more. This is this one guy saying that he was using this software trying to determine whether or not this was an edit later on. So there's these different clips, and then whatever this means, maybe it's like a inverted image, trying to see if there was any manipulation of pixels. And but yeah, so there's talk that the producers did this as a joke, and there's also, if you listen closely, there's like a little background noise basically being made as the eyelids close. So there's even more so that it's faked. And again, this is not to disparage what just Robert Dean was talking about and experiences he has had. Maybe this was probably not the best choice to show him, and then this afterwards. This is not supposed to be related. I just have very few things to show you. That's why they're one after another. But anyway, what do I have here? Oh, this is the next thing I was going to talk about. Yeah, there was. I went back to see the original video, and it's this little background where you can see the little plant with this particular dress and earrings and all that. It was not in that video. I tried getting to that point to be able to see it and compare it, by myself, and I was not able to find it. I went very slow, frame by frame. Maybe I did skip it and it's my mistake. But anyway, so since we're talking about people among us, again, 99.99% that this is faked, especially by the producers, because when I watch a little bit more of that comedy, and I don't know, she's I guess I don't know what to compare her to American wise, but she's kind of like maybe like an Amy Schumer here. So in the way she's talking, it's like it's supposed to be comedy, but there's so much more like emotion coming through, it's almost like she's not just trying to make something satirical, but also is very strongly believes what she's saying, and it's very condescending when you listen to it. But anyway, that's just my perception of what I was watching. So that's regarding that. And I know. There's been what's his name again? David Icke has talked about having seen people that he interacted with that had eyes like that, and there've been several others. But I don't know. Is this something you would want to see for yourself and have somebody stand in front of you and do that kind of shapeshift, or is this something that some of you would just rather hear it as a story and kind of reminisce about it that way, but keep it at a distance? So I don't know if you're watching, comment on that, just let me know what you think. But yeah, that's definitely crazy times. So the next thing I want to show you is about Jaime Maussan, I guess that's how you pronounce his name. So ever since he published ever since they had that hearing in Mexico and showed the two aliens and all the scans and all these other things, there's been a lot of, I guess, just mudslinging back and forth, and some people calling it a hoax, others, obviously objecting to that. And so this is probably a lot of things that are just weighing on their shoulders to begin with. And what I'm trying to get at here again is there's an interview. It's very short, or at least a short clip, that I will first just have you listen a little bit in Spanish, but he kind of loses his cool, about with the interview and whatever was happening. And so I'll first play the originals just so you can kind of, in the original language, hear the emotion. And I have a dubbed over version that's also about 2 minutes long that is a little bit hard to follow because I think it was just translated via computer, not an actual person speaking. And so it's difficult to figure out who says what, but it's the best dubbed over version I could find to where you can watch and listen at the same time to kind of understand what went on. So here's the original video.
Que ustedes quieren ignorar.
¿Y quién hizo esa investigación? ¿Quién?
¿El ADN no le parece que es una investigación científica?
No.
Es la reina de todas las pruebas, compañero. La reina de todas las pruebas.
¿Con qué?
Okay. So Anyway, let me now just play from the beginning. It's about 2 minutes long, and I'll just play you from the beginning of this dubbed over version. Again, I apologize for the quality of the dub is not that great, but it does help you kind of figure out what's being talked about.
Selling pre-Hispanic pieces in this country, Peru, is a crime, no matter how they proceed. I have not committed any crime. Who has them?
I ask you, look, I don't know. That person requested anonymity. I'm not going to violate that. I'm a journalist and I reserve the information.
Very good. Well, we'll get to who has them. Thank you, Jaime Maussan, for this interview. Finish by telling the truth. What is the truth? Let's see. Tell us what the truth is.
Explain to us.
Don't tell lies anymore.
What is the lie? Don't say it's not a town in Peru. But you, tell people the truth. How do you sell that as alien?
I have been participating in the research.
How do you point out that those are aliens?
Extraterrestres.
I said they were aliens. You are saying it.
You are also saying it now, that you think they are aliens.
I told him that I did not think, I do not affirm, I cannot prove it. What I can demonstrate is the scientific research that we have, that you want to achieve.
¿Cuál es?
Who did that research?
Who? Don't you think the ABN is scientific research?
No, it's the queen of all tests, mate.
The queen of all tests.
¿Con qué?
With what scientific support? With DNA.
¿Con qué?
With DNA, mate. Ideally, here we have done the same test and we have come to the conclusion that it is a fraud.
Cuerpos, no es cierto, no es cierto.
Here we have come to the same investigation 5 years ago.
Lo han hecho.
What is that fraud?
They have not touched these bodies.
Who believed that thing about aliens? Train the pieces.
Yeah, it's good, man.
You are a liar.
No.
No, you, sir. You.
I'm a liar. I'm a liar.
Train the pieces.
Ah, bueno,
It's good, it's good.
Peruvian pre-Hispanic pieces.
pero no lo esperaba.
Very good.
All right, I guess that's enough of that. Yeah, it's so whatever was going on, it was basically to that. So the Peruvian, they weren't, I guess whoever was in charge of any kind of excavation and whatnot first wasn't interested, but now is interested. It wants them back or something like that. Anyway, I don't know. It's just unfortunate. I don't speak Spanish fluently, so it's very difficult trying to find translations or having to read a lot and whatever is going on. But maybe it's just best to just leave this be and let them work it out until more information could come forward, whether or not, yes, there's more research done and it confirms more of what was initially said, or nope, research was done and it's fake. But I think that's the best thing we all can do for right now. Some of you that have more time and are more interested, obviously you can do all this online and keep track with it and see what's up, what's going on. But I think after this, I'm just going to leave it be until more information comes out. So the next thing I wanted to show you was actually pretty interesting. It was, so each year I basically work ahead of time for the Ozark Mountain UFO conference. So whatever graphics there are and with the streaming and trying to just basically get everything ready before April. And so the other day I was just, there was a graphic I was making. I was debating, I'm trying to basically have a graphic of a Pleiadian, trying to figure out how do I spell Pleiadian. And as many years as I've dealt with all this different stuff, I still am not too familiar with the exact spelling. So I went online just to type in Pleiadian to see what I can find. And so as I was just going through to see if there's a spelling of somebody mentioning Pleiadians or something, and to see if the spelling is consistent, and so that way I can say, okay, I can go with whatever the latest popular spelling for this is. And in the search itself, as I was going through, I see it's something about Pleiadians, but it's a irs.gov website. And so I was like, what in the world is this? So I click on that, and it comes up with this document, and you can see it here. It's actually under irs.gov and under these different folders, because I went back in each folder trying to figure out, okay, will it actually lead me back to IRS, or is it just somehow links got messed up or whatever? But it actually is and this is just, I don't know for entertainment purposes only, but it was just very interesting. This was a denial of a, I want to say it says in the document, I hope I can see it, of a 501c3. And it was an application made in 1992. And let me just read you just a little bit of what this says for those who are just listening. It says, we have considered your application for recognition of exemption from federal income tax under Section 501(c) of the Internal Revenue Code and have concluded that you do not qualify under the section for the reasons herein set forth. And it doesn't say exactly who applied, but then it keeps saying that you were incorporated. You were incorporated under the laws of the state of blah 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 blah, and it's all redacted, so I can't see it. For the purpose, as stated in your article of incorporation, to further the development, or quote, to further the development of human potential through exploring new boundaries and territories of our existing paradigm. And then it keeps talking more and more about the message, and so it's just kind of, it's funny and weird at the same time for me to see actual IRS documents and dealing with taxes kind of incorporating with this new age. I think it might be even a channeler at one point that basically applied for this. What else does it say? Trying to kind of get to the good parts. Yes, I see. To quote from your literature, the Pleiadians are a collective of extraterrestrials from the star system, the Pleiades. The Pleiadian culture is ancient and was seeded from another universe of love long before Earth was created. They have formed a tremendous society which operates with love, with ideas and ideals that we are yet unfamiliar with. The Pleiadians call themselves our ancient family because many of us come here from the Pleiades to participate in the new experiment of Earth. The Pleiadians are now here as ambassadors from another universe to help Earth through the difficult transitions from the third dimension to the fourth dimension, and to assert each of us in our personal endeavors of awakening, remembering, and knowing. Boy, this must have been quite something, having an IRS agent, I guess, forming this letter. It's already, for some people, crazy enough to hear this information now, but back in 1992, it was even more so. So anyway, this was just something I came across. I thought it was amusing. Sorry they got rejected, but I wanted to share that with you. And so I want to now just, before we get to any questions or someone else that whoever wants to call in, I want to finish up with the video that was basically shown. Sorry about that. It started playing before I wanted it to. I think it's the space station, and it's just another example of a unidentified flying object that does some interesting moves that tells you it's not just some random space junk kind of floating through space. And so I'll just show it to you, and we'll conclude with the show and tell section of this show. Let me make that bigger. And so I'm just going to fast forward because the video drags on for quite a bit, but you can see this object move, and then it kind of does a quick Z move there, like that, and then it repeats again. So no point of me playing all that dramatic music in the background. I'll just fast forward so you see what's going on, and that way I'm not taking up more time for those listening that can't see this. But yeah, it's just basically does a very impressive zigzags, which I don't know, and kind of takes off. It would have to be, because a lot of times I've watched when it comes to different explanations from NASA and any of these videos that were always shown, a lot of times they use the example of ice particles, and basically as sometimes, obviously, space junk or other things that, or especially in a space station, human waste is just kind of expelled out into space. And of course, because of the different temperatures, extreme temperatures out there, it freezes into icicles immediately and all these different things. So a lot of times that's always been used by NASA to explain, oh, this is just a water particle or whatever the station happened to release at that time, and that's what's coming across in this weird shape or loop as an explanation to not hint that it's a UFO, but it's just basically, pardon my French, a piece of shit flying around. But anyway, but there are some other things out there, like this video where you can tell it's much further in the distance, and the camera is just kind of sitting there, not really anybody observing, and it, you know, does these extraordinary moves to makes you think, it's like, okay, well, what kind of ice particle is this now? You know, please do explain. And so anyway, so that's all I have for you today, and let me kind of quickly just kind of look through to see if there's any questions. Otherwise, I'll leave you be, and actually, technically, I think the next three, unless something changes, I promise there's going to be actual interviews. So next Wednesday, Wednesday after that, and quite possibly that third Wednesday, but it's not 100%. So that way you don't just have to listen to me all the time. All right, let's see what we have here today. Labeled, welcome. Good to see you. Brian, welcome as well. Edward says, how can we call in? Edward, if you download Telegram, it makes it easier for me to bring in people as opposed to having a phone line, because I don't have another person to basically take the call and screen anything. So it's best if you just join Telegram and join the group that's that I have on Telegram, and the link is in the description below. So that way I see you pop up on my list when you come up, and I can bring you in if you want to talk to me. It just makes it easy for me to handle. But yes, Telegram is the way to basically quote unquote call in. Labeled again has a question. Good. Let me just say hi to Kurt. Roll the losing dice. Welcome as well. Let's see what Labeled says. So is there anything we could really do about any of these truths? We came to play the game, even if we are unsure of our own personal next move. We can only go with the flow. You know, today I did kind of a collaboration with another channel, and they'll come out maybe several weeks from now, and I'll also have her on to do an interview. But it was something that was very interesting we were discussing today, and you'll be able to see this on her channel once it comes out. It's basically a reading, a channeled reading for me, but it's going out in public. And so there was, I'm trying to remember, I know it just happened this morning, and I'm trying to recall exactly how it was asked and what the answer was given. It was along the lines of, because we know we always want to have that physical contact, and realizing that a lot of these interdimensionals, extraterrestrials, they're actually other dimensions. And so I know a lot of us focus on the eventual saucer landing, but a lot of times contact via, let's say, channeling, or the individual contacts that people even get during meditation, or some other things that they happen to be doing, like I've often mentioned, painting, binaural beats, whether they're running, walking, whatever helps them relax to be able to just be open-minded more and not on guard all the time for other thoughts to come in to where they could quite seem alien to them, quote unquote. And so, we were just talking about that, and I was asking that question, and I think instead of focusing on the end game, basically like how this eventual transition is going to look, the individual process about just you, wherever you are, wherever you happen to be, is to just progress however you need to progress, however little bit, to basically make this contact on your own. And so I've often shared my story, how that happened to me, and how I just basically took the channeled information and just took it to heart and put it to the test to say, okay, you said this, I'm going to follow it with the wholeheartedness and honesty, and whatever I get from it, so be it. And it really changed my life around, and it basically allowed these small steps. And so, of course, you talk to people, and I've talked to people about, okay, well, this person had this alien in government, and they were interacting with these particular beings, and this person was taken up on the ship, and also all these different stories. Those are all different circumstances that they happen for different people at different times, depending on what the energies are like, and you just have to, I think, as we were talking on that channeled interview, I just kind of reminded myself it's about just you progressing on your own and just forget what's going to happen out there. Now, of course, it's kind of like what I do now to bring all that out there here to get more focused and looking at what are they talking about in Congress, what other interviews are out there, who else has some other information to just kind of help spread it. And so it's kind of, I'm not exactly in the same boat right now, but initially when I had my own context, that's how it slowly starts. It's just about you and the world, and immediate world. So just kind of start out in that process, start out slow, instead of, like you were saying, like, is there anything we could do about any of these truths? It's like, you don't know what steps exactly are going to be taken on the grander picture, but all you know is slowly how you can live your own life. So I'm not sure if this is exactly going to 100% answer your question, but having lived my life in this very specific way of just, I wanted to find out, and then based on that finding out, it just kind of improved me as a person. So I just put basically just kind of going through this tedious process of, okay, what kind of hypocrisies do I have within, and work them out. It's like, if I say this, then stick to this and leave the rest alone. And if I, what kind of other belief systems do I have? And so you work all those things out, and by just simply living that life to better yourself, or not just necessarily better yourself, but to just have something like that help you, right? Be these directions for you. In that process, you will basically position yourself to where you come across certain things and certain information and even experiences that, individually blow your mind. Instead of, you could try seeking them out specifically, but you could spend a lifetime doing that. But inadvertently, by just working on your own and working on yourself, and basically just taking some of these channel messages to heart and trying to get to the bottom of it, that's how you basically get to these truths where you know for sure what's happening, where you know for sure, okay, this exists and this might not, and a lot of times for me, there's many other things, obviously, that I have not experienced, but the experiences I did have were so otherworldly, they were so crazy, that it's not my place to call somebody else crazy, because the things I've experienced, I can't talk about this and expect myself, or not to mention anybody else, to believe me, but then someone else shares something that's really weird, and like, that's crazy, what you're talking about. That's, again, going back to hypocrisies, right? And so you have to just kind of work through that out, and you get to those truths on your own. Okay, so I just saw a flash on my screen. I thought maybe the stream might have dropped or not, but it looks like I'm still live. Okay. Silva, welcome, a German coming through. Heidi, welcome as well. Let's see here. All right. Nope, still everything going just fine. So anyway, if any of you have some questions for me that maybe I could answer, if you care for me to answer them. Otherwise, I don't know what else you might want to hear about, and there's no one else that basically logged in to want to share their story. So I'll leave it at that. I'll give it give it a few more moments to see if there's any other questions that come through. But other than that, I'll just finish up with tonight. But what something interesting too, what was happening, just to give you a little pre-shadow about this channel information ad today. It was very, obviously, it was very personal. I thought maybe they might have covered things in general for people to just kind of get the general idea about certain things, but it seemed to be specifically reading for me, and I didn't know that, but it doesn't matter. It's okay if it goes public. I have really nothing to hide, and I don't mind, because it's what I kind of talk about and do anyway. And the channel kind of confirmed to me what I've been feeling there for a while, that these past 10 years, which is pretty much the period of being married and having children and all of that, that things seem to have been on a hiatus of all these things that have been happening. There's just not much happening. On occasion, there's some things here and there, but nothing to write home about, as to say. So I was kind of wondering about that, and without even saying anything on my own, she kind of confirmed to me that period, or this period, is coming to an end for me, and that it's going to kind of ramp back up for the next 10 years moving forward. And so that whatever I was doing was needed and necessary, which I always kind of felt that was the case, because I mean, having children and starting a new family and doing all these different things, and dealing with extra dimensional things, which just messes with your mind, it's really a lot. And I already, I can't say I'm like the best parent in the world, but just having these little devils running around, I mean, it's like, it just drives you insane. And it's very difficult to just kind of calm down and be, in that, because I'm so used to dealing with people where reason usually works. You're given an example and you try to persuade somebody with reason and examples why, let's say, a collaboration would be beneficial for both of us. Why, if I'm asking somebody for a favor, why they should, do a favor for me, and I will, give them a favor in return, right? All these things that we do as adults. When you talk to a child, it's like none of that is there. It is just out. It's like they just have one-track mind, is what they feel they need to get, and it's like just there isn't crying, then there's screaming, then there's throwing a fit, and all these things that go on. And so all of that is very taxing to just constantly be dealing with that, and but now as they're growing up, it's still there, but it's in less and less intense. And so I felt, in this channel kind of confirmed to me, okay, well, things are kind of winding back down again, and so things might come up. And so there's a lot of thoughts that I've had just about what else to do regarding this channel, and some other things that I'm doing just outside of this, because believe it or not, I do have a life that doesn't involve UFOs. And so I also love to concentrate on that. And so I just had all these different thoughts that have been all of a sudden just kind of rushing to my mind of what else I could possibly do. And during that reading, she confirmed to me that's most definitely like why, because it's coming to a conclusion. I'm getting into this new space, and so it's gonna just ramp up on all levels for me moving forward. Okay, I see one question from Silky B says, any more news on the aliens in Mexico? No, other than that, Jaime lost his cool on TV, and other than that, they're still going back and forth, calling each other's names, each other names about, you're a hoax, and then others, vice versa. I don't know. It's difficult. It's kind of like having two people fight. The best thing is like, let them calm down. Once things settle down, then maybe cooler heads will prevail and we can get to the bottom of it, instead of getting on a team and then rooting for one or the other, hoping that you don't end up losing. It's always best to just kind of stay neutral, and eventually things will reveal themselves. But no, other than that just a whole bunch of name calling and scientists not looking into it, others looking into it, and them asking others to come and see, and they're not wanting to come and look at this, and I don't know, just a whole, basically a big circus over it. Silky B asking again says, almost done with the Convoluted Universe series. I love it so much. Dolores is my savior. Well, I mean, I hope you just take Dolores, the little period that I've known her before she passed away in 2014. She truly was a wonderful person, but with everyone, no matter, including myself or her or whoever it is, it's the information at the end of the day that counts. And please kind of take note, on that and see how it can help you, and if how whatever purpose that information will play in your life, because I don't know, sticking to any individual person, we're all fallible, and if you build them up too much in any particular way, it's easy to just, if one thing that person does that doesn't match with you, it just kind of makes you throw away everything that you possibly learned, when it's almost an unfair way to look at it. So I'm glad you found the books. I would encourage people to read a lot of Dolores Cannon's books, because she has such a wholehearted, open-hearted approach to this, to just find the truth. And so at least, if my opinion counts for anything, she truly was just wanting to get to the bottom of it. Like, who are they? What is this? What's going on? And not a lot of BS around it. Just whatever channel information came through, that's what was given. And I was actually at the office. I feel very privileged. I got to see all the tubs of the original tapes that are kept from all the sessions that then all the books were written from. And so it's very very humbling to just kind of know how much work went in, because especially during her time and her not being very, I guess, savvy with technology, some of these scripts were written in software, and that I was not even, having dealt with computers most of my life, I was like, what kind of format is this? And so I had to go out of my way to kind of learn to kind of help recuperate some of these things, because she would do a session and do the session entirely on its own, and then only then, when it's done and completed and the client got what they needed to get from that particular information, she would then move on to then transcribe the whole thing that was discussed. And so then she would just continue that until that was done, and then only then would there be then some ideas about, okay, well, so much information from all these different people has come through, this would be good to put together in the book. At least that's my humble opinion about what went on, the way I was able to perceive what was happening and what was being done. So it's a lot of work that she put in. Nowadays it would be so much easier, because you can do the work in fraction of a time. But yeah, back then it was took a long time. Okay, what do we have here? Edwards is asking, I think it's a question for me. I know you don't have the asterisks, but it's thankfully y'all aren't chatting too much, so it's easy for me to follow, and I think it's meant for me. But he's asking, what do you feel about David Grush guy after no disclosure, nothing new? Well, there's been also some talks that he would be able now to just kind of be freed and be talking about more of what else is out there, what else he knows. What that is, I don't know. That still remains to be seen. If for those of you who are just looking at this from an entertainment point of view, and just a kind of watching it like an episode, like, okay, I watched this, what's next, and so on, I don't know what's to come. But for me, again, like I was trying to explain to Labels, it's a game that we humans are playing, and because it's my purpose for doing this show to then kind of keep track of that, I wish that you don't all misunderstand that, the thinking that I'm trying to tell you, like, this is important. At the end of the day, like with everything in life, when you first meet a person, right, you have the buildup of any kind of ideas, somebody telling you about this person that you're about to meet, and they say, well, they're like this and they're like that, and they're like comedy or they're very serious, whatever. And you have your own idea and all the things that you build up. And because of that, sometimes a lot of nervousness builds up, sometimes even fear, before then somebody says, hey, come on over, let me introduce you to this person. And you might get nervous, sweaty palms, you're like, hello, nice to meet you, and that's something we go through just meeting a human. It's very different trying to deal with these things that are outerworldly. And especially if you have a built up an opinion of what's going on, it's that much harder on you. You put that much more pressure on yourself, So I don't pay that much attention to what David Grush is going to be talking about. I'll try to cover it for all of you that are not at this stage, and I don't mean anything bad by it. I'm not saying I'm anything better or whatever. It's like I've seen what's it like on the other end, and so I also see that there's a lot of people that are potentially going into that direction. So I have to kind of revert back where I was 15, 20 years ago, and then restart again to, hey, let's look at documents, let's look at videos, let's look at all these different things to kind of help maybe guide people along to eventually get to the things that I've seen, so that I can relate things better to you and you can understand things a little bit better from what I'm trying to say. Let's see here. Roll the Losing Dice says, David Grush is an alien. Labor says, I am audiobooking. Very good reporting. Thank you for your show. Well, thank you for being here and paying attention to me. Otherwise, I'll just be sitting here talking to myself. Roll the Losing Dice. Smoking on anything? No. If you're referring to me, no, I'm not. I don't smoke. I don't drink. As you can see, the only thing I'm really guilty of is eating too much. But other than that, no. If there's anything else I can answer you or answer some of your questions, let me know. But nope, just water in my cup today. All right. Well, I think we'll finish off here. There's no more questions, so thanks to all of you that have tuned in today. Tune in again next Wednesday at 7. I should have an interview for you with an actual guest, and you can also call in to ask them questions directly over Telegram, or we'll also do the submitting of questions in the chat rooms with the 3 asterisks, if you can remember. But anyway, thanks again. Join me next time, and I hope you have a great rest of the day. All right, take care.